Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm marketing operations here at Smarty. Today's webinar is going to be about our new Google Sheets and Excel plugin. We're very excited to get started. However, before I introduce our presenter, let's go over a couple of housekeeping items. One, this webinar will be recorded. It's being recorded right now. We'll get a copy of it sent out to everybody who registered for the webinar, so you'll be able to view that from your inbox hopefully later today. You'll also be able to share that with anybody that you think would benefit from that recording and wants to see how you can validate addresses directly in your spreadsheets. Second, to interact with our presenter and other audience members, feel free to use the Q&A and the chat features in the Zoom webinar interface. I'll be watching that interface very closely. We'll be bringing up those questions to our presenter, and we'll try to make sure that you get everything out of this session that you were hoping to get out of it. So speaking of our presenter today, we have Landon Fackrell, one of our back-end developers with us and the one that spearheaded this integration. So without further ado, Landon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. Again, I'm really excited to be able to present this product. I was able to work really hard on it. And it was a really cool thing to make, just to make Smarty easier to use for all of you so you can make money and make your business more efficient. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of give you a little quick overview on what my plans are. First, I'm going to go in, I'm going to show you just the basics of the plugin. Just going to show you how you can validate addresses, get the data that you need. After that, I'll show you how you can get this plugin for yourself and get it all set up, what you need to do to get ready to go. And then I'll go into some case studies, some different use cases and features that we have so you can make the most of this integration for your business. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump over to my nifty little Google Sheets spreadsheet here. So I've already done the setup, so I'm already ready to go. I can start validating all these addresses. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have this huge list of addresses, right? I got about 300 in here. And since I'm an engineer at Smarty, I obviously think addresses are very nifty, but I want them validated because that's what we do here. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to click on the Smarty button. You see, plugin will throw that button up there for you. So I'll go over here, click on Smarty, click on Show Tools. On the side here, I'm going to get this little sidebar that pops up. Really nice, pretty clear, all the different options here. We'll go more into those different options a little bit later. But all I'm going to do to get things validated, I'm going to go over, highlight my addresses. I'm going to click Validate and Retrieve All Data. Click OK. What that's going to do is it's going to take all of these addresses, batch them up, send them over to Smarty. Smarty's going to take those, validate them. And then with the validated addresses and data, it's going to send that back here. Then Google Sheets is going to do all this work to reformat everything and get everything spread out. So as you can see, I got a status message, validated address, and all of this other data that Smarty has given back to me that Google Sheets is just formatted and laid out nice and neat for me. And that, in essence, is the Google Sheets plugin. Really simple, really easy to use, as easy as highlighting and clicking and letting it go. So, excuse me. When we were designing this plugin, our whole goal was to make Smarty easier to interact with. We know that lots of people know how to work with data easily inside of Excel and Google Sheets. So we thought that'd be a perfect place to do it. And as we were developing, we went through a couple of iterations of using formulas and all sorts of different approaches. We finally settled on a simple highlight, click, and go to get all your data right where you need it, validated and great. So that gives you the power of Google Sheets and the power of Smarty all in one place. So now I know what you're thinking, like, Landon, this is the coolest product I've ever seen. I cannot wait to get my hands on it and to get set up. And so for that, I'm going to show you how to get set up really quickly. All you need to do is go over, and this is,
So there's a couple of things that we saw here. And I have some questions about the results and about the data that you put in before we get into how you set it up and actually start using it.
For sure.
One, it looks like all of your addresses are pasted into a single cell.
Yes.
When you use the bulk address tool, for those who may be current Smarty customers, they have their Excel spreadsheet open. They've got it built out into the different components, and they've got the column headers for address 1, address 2, city, state, zip, all of those split out separately. If they paste them as separate columns, will this still work?
Yeah, so right now that's a feature we're still building out and talking about implementing. So the current version of the Google Sheets and the Excel plugin will only be able to handle freeform input, is what we call it, or the address all in one cell. But if you have everything all separated out, all you need to do is go in, merge those together into one cell, and then you can validate everything all the same. That's a really good question.
Excellent. Okay. I'm seeing that I had my mic down. I'm sorry. The other question that I have is for the audience here. We have made this for Google Sheets and for Microsoft Excel. We're curious to see what people are using, which ones are the most important. So I'll go ahead and put this poll up on the screen. You can click right on it, right on the screen. Are you currently using Google Sheets? Are you currently using Excel? Are you using something else? And this is a multiple select. So you can, if you're like me, I use Microsoft Excel for my complex equation kind of things, but Google Sheets still has that super easy shareability. So I would vote that I'm using both Google Sheets and Excel if I was participating in this poll. But it looks like in the 30 seconds that I've been talking, most people have commented already, and it looks like 93% of the audience is using Excel and 13% of the audience is using Google Sheets. Interestingly, nobody's using numbers. Just kidding. I'm actually not
Very
surprised
interesting.
at all about that.
I
So
don't know if the numbers plugin is in the works yet.
that's great. So the audience here, Landon, mostly cares about Excel. So that brings me to the second question. You just demoed Google Sheets. Tell us where Excel's at on here
Yeah,
and
great
if it'll
question.
be the same or different.
Yeah, great question. So the Excel plugin is going to look almost identical to the Google Sheets plugin. All the functionality itself will be identical. There'll be that same sidebar is going to come up on the side. You're going to highlight, click validate. There's just a couple things that we're working through right now to get the Excel plugin ready to launch and in your hands. And so that's why I'm demoing the Google Sheets plugin right here, because that's in the process to getting released to the Google Store. But I know since many of you are thinking about Excel, don't worry, it's coming soon. Same the Google Sheets plugin, and all the functionality is going to be exactly the same. So everything I show here is going to be totally relevant for that.
Excellent. There's a couple more questions that have come in, but let's continue with the demo. So show us how to get the plugin and start working with it.
Okay, sweet. So obviously getting the plugin is going to be a little bit different for Google Sheets than it is for Excel. For Google Sheets, all you're going to do is you're going to come over to extensions, go add-ons, get add-ons, and that'll pull you into the Google Store. And so for those of you that are experienced Google Sheets will know what this is. I'll just go ahead and search Smarty. I can install that straight into my spreadsheet. For Excel, it's going to be through Excel Store. They have a similar interface there where you go into the store, you can find different plugins that are available, and you go ahead and you install that into your spreadsheet. And then once those are all released, we'll have more detailed documentation stepping you through each step so you can get set up a lot easier. But assuming once you have everything downloaded, all you're going to need to do is come into this button up here, click Smarty. Then you're going to click Add Credentials. And this will pull up a little window where you can put in your auth ID and auth token. For those of you that have used Smarty before and are familiar with how we do verification or authentication, excuse me, we'll know the auth ID and auth token is something we use a lot inside of our APIs. And this is going to use the exact same thing. So to find that, you're just going to go into your Smarty page, go to API keys, and then in there, you'll find your auth ID and auth token that's connected with your account and your licenses and so forth. So once you enter those into there, you'll click submit. I already have mine submitted, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. But once you submit, it'll process for a little bit and get all that submitted for you. So, and then you're ready to go. All you got to do is click on Smarty, click show tools, get that sidebar up, and then start validating. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. But yeah, any questions on that, Andrew? Is that all looking pretty simple, looking pretty good?
Yeah, it's very simple. This is great. We do have questions about from our fellow address lovers that have been using Smarty and working with addresses for a long time. We know that sometimes an address delivers more than one candidate for an address.
Yes.
How is that handled in this plugin?
Great question. So similar to our other bulk validation tools, what this is going to do is pick the first candidate, the best address, best candidate that we have, and it's going to give that to you there. So you'll see that exact same behavior inside of the Smarty list tool, the CLI, as well as the bulk validation tool on the website.
Excellent. Is there option to add the address with the goal of validating suite number for businesses.
So wait, ask the question again. Ask it one more time. Sorry.
Sure. Is there an option to add the address with the goal of validating suite number for businesses? So is this still going to be validating suite numbers, or is it
Yes.
just okay?
Yep. All of the exact same functionality as the APIs is preserved inside of the Google Sheets plugin. So yeah, you can put suite numbers in there. Everything will validate just the same as it would in the API. Good question.
Excellent. So the status message. So when I do a bulk lookup, for example, is this pulling in exactly the same data that I would get from a bulk lookup? For example, mailable or matchable mailable or matchable not mailable or not found. Because I see there's a status message, and I'm assuming that that one is added with the plugin. That's the plugin status.
Yes, this is the plugin. So the status message right here is a little bit different from the bulk status message that you're talking about. This is going to tell you whether or not an address was matched. And then as far as like mailable, non-mailable, stuff like that, that will be found a little bit later in the metadata. It's not going to be written out as verbose as of yet, but let me see if I can find it really quickly. Oh, there's so much data. See right here at the end, you can see postal match.
So that's still being delivered.
So that'll still be delivered. Yes.
Excellent. Another question. So if I want to install this, can I just find it in the Google add-on store, the marketplace?
Exactly. Yep. It'll be in the Google marketplace, and the Excel will be in the Excel add-ins marketplace.
When is the question for Google? I know that we're still working on Excel, and it should be shortly is the answer there. And we'll send an email out to everybody that registered and possibly others when the Excel one is available. But when can we expect the Google Sheets one to be available?
Yeah, good question. So right now, everything's ready. Everything's going through review right now with Google. So it's just a matter of time is when we get everything back, everything confirmed that we're able to release this. And so within the next few weeks is definitely a reasonable estimate. But right now, it's kind of out of our court. We're just waiting for Google to get back to us. But from what I've seen, Google's pretty quick on responding with these kinds of reviews and stuff like that. So it should be in the very near future.
Excellent. Excellent. And it looks like on row 19 there, you have an address and it says no address was matched. Is that what happens if you insert a bad address or something that's not validated?
Yep, exactly. So if I insert some funny input like this, as you can see, it'll just say, okay, I didn't match anything. It's just going to tell you right there, no address is matched, because we thought it might be a little bit confusing if it was just an empty row. So we included that status stage like, hey, we looked, there's nothing here.
That's great. If you can go all the way to the right to show us the deliverability data again, just so that we know that that's separate. So there are different types of responses that can come up on a match. So you could come, it looks like if you, what row is it? 20? It says postal match. What does that say?
Oh yeah.
Postal match ignored input. So there's a lot of data in this column. If you're worried about mailability, you can on smarty.com, we've got an article that breaks out some of this data and what this means when they come back with different feedback. For example, ignored input could mean that the match was correct except for the suite number. So the address exists, but that suite or apartment doesn't. That number didn't match in the records we have. So you'll still be able to use that information. The API, when you're using this API, in your example, are you using the US address verification API? What if I want to utilize something else or a different license parameter? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So the API being used right here is the US Street API. Currently for the Google Sheets and Excel plugin, we're just launching with the US Street API. That's one we'll be using. But with licenses, I'll show that really quickly if I pull up my sidebar again. Over here, I have the settings of match. So I can either do enhanced mode or strict mode. And license, I can go ahead and, type in my license there. And that'll use that license to validate those addresses. So for those that have multiple licenses, they can specify which one they'd like to use. Great question.
Excellent. There's one question here, and I'll ask it to the best of my ability, but maybe you could clarify, audience member who asked this question, help me clarify the question a little bit. So are the output columns and labels fixed, or could they change with future enhancements? So I think what we're asking is the data there, if I change the input address on a line, will it automatically update?
Yeah.
I think, again, if I'm asking that incorrectly, please clarify.
Okay. So to answer that question, will it change if I change the input? So we actually talked about this for a little bit. And our main concern is like, well, we don't want to accidentally use people's lookups if things change. So right now, what the plugin does, the decision that we made was it literally fills in the information into each of the cells. So once the information is in there, it's just as if you typed it yourself. So I guess in the words that were used in the question, yes, it is. It's fixed. It's just text typed into these cells. I can go in and change things if I want. But yeah, it's just text put in there.
If you wanted to check a line again, you just select the address and tell it to run again.
Yep. Yeah. I can even go in here, change this address. Let's say I just, take out GA and leave the zip code in, and I'll go ahead and click validate. It's going to go okay. And it's going to load. And it honestly might have the exact same results. We won't see.
It looks like it did.
It'll just replace it. So it'll just replace whatever was there before with our information.
Excellent. This is a more general Smarty question. How does our database react to PO boxes? What shows in the response when you search a PO box?
Good question. So PO box will validate just as any other address. And yeah, it'll come through into one of these different metadata fields. So since a PO box is a valid address, you can mail to it. It'll come through the API just fine. You'll be able to find all the data in here. I wonder if I have an example in here somewhere. Oh, look right there. There's a PO box right here. So as you can see, in deliver line 1, it says PO box 98.
Can you show us a little bit more of the information that's on that row? So it says PO box 9082. Then it has the city and state and zip.
Yep.
As far as deliverability, what kind of information does it show?
Let's go all the way to the end. All the way to the end.
Postal match.
It says it's a postal match because
so it could be delivered to. Excellent.
Good question.
Excellent. This is another great question. I'm not sure if you and I are the right people to ask it. We may have to reach out to you afterwards, but how accurate is the geocoding returned if I want to mash up with, Power BI or something like that? With this license, with the US license and no additional parameters, how accurate is the geocoding?
Okay, good question. So I know, unfortunately, I'm not the geocoding expert. One of my coworkers knows a lot more about this than I do. But here, actually, if you'd like, I can go over and show, let's be a little bit, since this has so many fields, I'm going to come over to one of my examples that I have here. And this was a little situation that I thought of where I have all these clients and they have all these addresses, and I need to know who is affected by a natural disaster. So obviously, what I can do is I can go highlight all their addresses and validate and retrieve the geocodes. What that's going to do is it's going to validate that and give me these geocodes, all this geocoding information right in one spot. So I don't have to scroll through all of that data, right? That's why we kind of made these separate options, is that you can kind of configure how much data you want back. And so as you can see here, with this license, I believe this is our rooftop geocoding cloud license. I can't remember the exact verbiage. But the precision of these geocodes, you're going to have the rooftop, you're going to have the parcel. And there's more information on what exactly that means on our support page, like those words and stuff. A rooftop means rooftop. Parcel means you get a package there. Then there's some other ones down the line that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Sure. Parcel centroid, where if they've got a parcel of land, it just puts it on that parcel. Rooftop is much more accurate. So like you were saying in the original one, I think it's +4 precision or something like that.
Yeah, like zip 4, like you get along the street. I can't remember exactly.
But it delivers a precision column, does it not?
Yes. Yeah. This precision column is from the API. So you can find that information when you're making the API call.
Excellent. There's a question about the difference between vacant addresses and non-postal match addresses and how are they identified? Again, those would be in the what is the name of that column? Enhanced match. Data, and those will deliver out different bits of information. Like this one, it's missing the secondary unit information, or this one had to ignore some input, or those will be identified there. Let's see, another one. Excuse me. If you have the location address, but the business uses a PO box for mailing, will Smarty's response with the mailing address or just validate the location address? I believe the answer there, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the answer is that Smarty doesn't track business information. We're tracking addresses. So whatever address you put in, it will validate that address.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, excellent. And then lots of questions. This is great.
Good. Yeah, that's great. That's what we're here for.
Okay, this one might be into our secret sauce a little bit. Is this using the multiple address post to US Street API or making multiple GET calls, one per address? If multiple on one request, is it limited to the API to like 100 addresses? So I guess, are you asking if we can call to multiple Smarty APIs in one call? Maybe just answer that question.
Can you call to multiple Smarty APIs in one call using the plugin? Is that
Right.
the question? Yeah. So right now it's just set up for US Street. And so that's what the current version we're sitting at. We've been talking about possibly adding other APIs in the future. But yeah, just US Street for right now. But yeah, and I think, yeah, when they were asking the question, some of the implementation came to my mind. But yeah, if you use the Smarty SDK, we're using the batching there. So it's faster than just doing single API calls. That person sounds like a developer, so they'll probably know what I'm talking about.
Are you limited to 100 per request is another one?
Yeah, so each request, because the batching has a capacity of 100. So we do batches of 100. We send batches of 100 of these addresses at a time, and that just speeds up the response. And so we can spend more time formatting instead of waiting for the API to come back to us. But yeah, we do groups of 100.
Okay, so are we limited to that in here?
Nope. Yeah.
Okay.
So like in the example before, I did about 300. So it'll manage all of that for you. You don't have to worry about it. You could throw in thousands at it and it'd be totally fine.
Okay. So. Excellent. Would you mind, there's a question here that they're wanting to know what metadata, what are all of the column heads that we get here? If you wouldn't mind just going to smarty.com and going to our single address validator, Landon.
Do you want to pull that up?
Yeah, because that, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, delivers exactly the same information as the plugin does.
Yes, exactly. And I'm going to clarify something really quick. If you want all of the data that the API is going to give you, make sure you use this validate and retrieve all data, because these two before will just shorten responses so you don't have to deal with
to the more specific. So it's just the validation or just the geocode and validation.
Exactly. Yep. And so yeah, if you're looking for all that, make sure you use this button. But I'll come over here and man, it's been so long.
Resources.
Yeah, here
single address verification in the middle of the top.
There we go.
I
spent too much time in the code, not enough on the website.
That's right. So if you just start typing numbers, it'll autocomplete something and you can look up any of those addresses. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Any of those. So if you scroll down, and anybody can do this, you don't have to have a plugin or anything. Here's all of the data that we deliver. So you can see that it's got latitude and longitude, congressional district, the carrier route, even DPV notes, enhanced match data. All of this data will be delivered as individual columns when you do a call through the plugin.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that thing was so wide. I think actually, if you go back to the plugin itself, it goes all the way to column BE, which you're like, wow, that's a big spreadsheet. But it's because we are fetching all of this data and formatting it out for you when we use that all data call.
Sure. This is great. So like we said, and if you want to show me that last slide I sent you.
Of course.
This will be live anytime now on Google Sheets.
Soon.
We don't.
I wish I could give you an exact day, but we're just waiting to hear back. So
and that should be quickly. And then Excel should be coming shortly as well. We will send an email out to everybody who registered for this webinar when each of those launch, just so that you're aware that you can grab those. If you are not a current Smarty customer, you can get 1,000 free lookups by going to smarty.com/signup or just smarty.com, and there's a button in the corner that says free trial, and that comes with 1,000 lookups. And you can utilize those 1,000 lookups directly through the plugin if you'd like. So if you want to try those out, you can do that there. Yeah, that's it. We have no other questions. Thank you very much, Landon. Thanks everybody for joining us. We hope you found this valuable and that you find the plugin itself valuable as well. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
See y'all.